The origin story of how a broke college student got a case of the gambling itch and somehow turned this thing into a career. Hey everyone, it's Ethan here, and today I'm gonna answer a question that I get constantly. I'm just getting started out in poker. How do I build a bankroll, become profitable? What stake do I play, etc., etc.? Well, here's the video to answer all those questions from my perspective and experience. So if you're looking to start out in poker in college or a recent graduate, hopefully you find this helpful or just want to listen as to how I personally got started. So here we go. Before I get started, if you just want to take half a second to gently tap that like button, that'd be sweet, or just share this video with someone who you know that might want to get into poker seriously. So my very first poker session came when I was 20 years old during my junior year of college. A buddy and myself from school drove to the nearest 18 plus casino, which was 2 hours away on a random Sunday to play cards. My buddy, he actually knew how to play poker and was playing 2-5 at the time. And the whole ride there, I asked some really basic questions like how the button worked and gave me advice to tip the dealers every single hand that I won. Safe to say, I knew less than nothing about poker. But as always, I'm down to degen and try something new, so long story short, I busted my $500 buy-in at 1-2 in maybe 30 minutes. And as a college student making $12 an hour in dining services on campus, this was a huge blow, and I had to lay low in the poker scene for the rest of the semester until around Christmas break. So for a few months, I was able to grind back the few $100 working, and all the while watching the original poker vloggers on YouTube, learning more about the game. And that's when I decided to record and make my very first vlog on Rampage Poker. This was either my second or third live session ever. And I learned a lot from the YouTube comments about my playstyle and hand selection and all this stuff, and I just tried implementing it. And as someone who didn't have a real circle of friends to talk poker with, I relied heavily on YouTube comments for help. So starting out, I think having a community or forum to just read and learn about the game from other people is super important. Personally, I joined Johnny Vibes Facebook group, which was huge to just silently learn. And now I've created my own Facebook group as well for people to post hand histories and ask for genuine feedback, which is a huge game changer into improving. Anyways, I took my initial Christmas break to record and play about 4 sessions for YouTube vlogs. I might have won a few $100s, but the main takeaway was understanding the value of being skilled at poker equated to making money that would be a fun side hustle. I finished up my second semester of college and watched all the YouTube vlogs at the time, like Brad Owen, Andrew Neeme, Vibes, Jamin, and Jonathan Little as well, and learned a lot of terms and actions that I needed to apply. And all the while still working on campus at school to build a bankroll, and with about $3,000 to my name starting that summer, I played 1-2 with the max buy-in of $300. Clearly very, very underrolled for the game. And typically, my answer for a starting bankroll would be around 20 to 25 max buy-ins at a bare minimum, no matter what the stakes are. With this number, you're really able to withstand variance, and losses don't really hurt as much. But obviously, as a broke college student here, $3,000 is all I had, and I was working at the time, so whatever. Degen's got a degen. That summer, I would sneak out of my house and tell my parents I was hanging out with friends, but drive an hour to the casino and come back at all odd hours of the night. I think I played about 15 to 20 sessions total, documented a few of them in some old vlogs, but was net around minus $2,000. I didn't even track my progress at the time, but definitely knew I lost money, and this is where the real story starts. So summer break ends, I turned 21 in September, and starting my senior year of school, MGM Springfield opens up, which is about a 30-minute drive away from school. I couldn't have asked for a better perfect storm scenario as I was slowly learning the game and becoming an enthusiast of poker. So between school, working part-time hours on campus to pay for my poker punts, and applying to a full-time job after school, and learning poker and trying out poker vlogging, it was certainly a hectic time balancing all of this. But on the poker side of things, I started to take it very seriously on both the playing side and YouTube. Creating content was a great insight to not only learn poker from comment sections, but also was valuable in figuring out what I wanted to do in my life. Trying to create content on a regimented schedule was tough in the beginning, but I really enjoyed the process of creating and learning along the way. And with poker, the MGM game was a $500 max, so it was fairly big for a 1-2 game, and with still about $3,000 to my name, every single session and every single hand I played was almost a must-win situation with what I had, and it determined what groceries I could afford that week. I have to admit, more than a few times I've used what was allocated for rent money brought that money and buy into the casino, and I needed to turn that into a win. Like, I was either not going to be able to pay rent and had to schedule 40 hours of on-campus work the next week, or I have a winning session and things would be fine. So the bankroll management aspect was clearly not there, and living a highly stressful first semester, poker was surprisingly profitable. From September to December 2018, I made roughly $1,800 and average an hourly of $8 an hour. All things considered, it's not horrific. And I felt like if I hit my stride, I was actually doing well results-wise October and November. Then December kind of crushed my soul, losing $2,400. Looking back, I was just running extremely well and playing quite unprofitably actually, no surprise. But by making $13 an hour at MGM Springfield, it's comparable to my on-campus job at the time and gave me the motivation to keep trying out this poker adventure. Also, side note, I traveled to Indiana for 2 days for a job interview, and of course, I found a poker room about 40 minutes away and booked my largest win at the time of $1,600 playing 1-2. That was definitely the highest highs I've ever felt playing poker early on, and I was luckily able to document that experience. So fast forward to my last year of senior year, beginning of 2019, I was still very unsure whether I can win long-term at poker, but things get a little silly. I started January to a hot and fire start, averaging $40 an hour. I was loving poker and hating my on-campus job, and with about $6,000 to my name, at this point winning $2,200, I said screw it. Let's quit my job that was paying me $15 an hour that I loathed and focused on poker because the hourly was around $25 after January. And you can just see how drastically the hours jumped to almost 100 hours played in February. Didn't actually make much overall in the green, but I was having a blast making $10 an hour that month compared to slaving away 20 hours plus a week at the concession stands. I ended up keeping up the same hourly pace per month until graduation in May. And when people asked me what I studied in school, I always joked around and said I just studied poker and lived at MGM, given how often I went. But at the end of the day, I took a bet on myself and was super aggressive with this. And at the same time, my parents still didn't really know I played poker until around the summertime. So overall, I can't say my path to becoming a professional poker player is one I'd recommend. Playing with money that I couldn't afford to lose with was just ridiculous, and the amount of times I'd drive back and scream at myself for losing a big pot or a big losing session was extremely unhealthy and stressful. After losing 1 or 2 buy-ins, I was lucky to call into my on-campus job and schedule a 10-hour plus shift and to make some overtime along the way to work off some of the losses. But for the people who just want to start the grind, here's my journey. Hopefully you got a good insight as to what it's like, but if you're looking to play poker professionally or take it more seriously as an income source, always try to parlay poker with something else. The amount of stress and hourly, personally in my opinion, isn't really worth it unless you play 5-10 plus. And I'd say people usually don't start off at 5-10 for obvious reasons. YouTube was that secondary income stream for me, and luckily it's been going really well watching that channel grow. So here's my story. Comment down below if this resonated with you at all, and hopefully you enjoyed.